What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another week of Quarantine Kitchen. Today is all about the classic gnocchi. And yes, I said well, you'll see how it's spelled here in a minute, but gnocchi, that's how it was pronounced. Ultimately, these are little potato pillows and light and fluffy that just really take pasta, if you will, to a whole new level, or dumplings, if you will. So ultimately, today I'm gonna show you all the tips and tricks on how to make the perfect gnocchi every single time. So let's get started.
So we'll start off with 3 russet potatoes. Here we're going to use russet potatoes because they tend to be a little bit more on the dry side and less waxy. You're just going to poke a few holes in them, put them on a wire rack or directly on the racks in your oven at about 400 degrees for 40 minutes. As you can see, just fork tender. And right out of the oven, we're going to go ahead and take these potatoes, cut them right in half. The whole point here is to get as much moisture out of these potatoes, and by letting that steam escape, it's going to make them much more drier. Now here I happen to have a food press. If you wanted to, you could go ahead, cut these in half, let them sit out till they're cool, and use something like a box grater instead. But you really want to get these as fine as possible. That's what's going to give you the smoothest texture. And as you can see, just by using this food press, I'm going directly onto the table. This is going to create more surface area and really cool them down as evenly as possible. And as you're going to see now, I'm going to make them right on the countertop as well. So our standard ratio, 500 grams of potatoes. That's 1 egg yolk that goes in per 500 grams and 100 grams of flour. Just sifting the flour right on top of there, make sure I have nice even distribution. And then if you joined us a few weeks ago and we did pie crust, you'll see it's kind of the similar notion where I'm taking a pastry cutter and I'm just kind of working the dough back and forth, and it's going to start out in a crumbly mixture and eventually it will come together. Just like the pie dough, we want to make sure we don't overwork this. That gluten, as it begins to hydrate and we work this dough more, we're going to have tough gnocchi as an end result. So I'm not going to work this for more than about 90 seconds. And one thing I didn't mention was your average russet potato is going to be about 300 to 350 grams of flesh that you're going to get per potato. So you can either use that ratio or you can actually go ahead and weigh out your potatoes at the time of ricing them. Now to be able to roll them, you're just going to divide the dough into a quarter and just kind of work the dough a little bit more, work in a little more flour if needed. One good thing that you could actually do here is allow this dough to rest for about 30 minutes to an hour. And what will happen is it'll allow that flour to hydrate into the dough, and it'll really make it a little bit easier to work with. As you can see here, I had to work in a little more flour because I just went immediately from making the dough into shaping it. And really the first step of the shaping process isn't really that tricky. You're taking a quarter of the dough, you're rolling it out almost like a little snake, like you used to kind of do back in the day with Play-Doh. And then you're going to cut it into about 1-inch sections. I happen to have a gnocchi board here. And as you can see, I just take that little potato piece and start to roll it over with my thumb, and then I take the rest of my hand and completely roll it over from there. Now you don't have to shape gnocchi at all. You could actually leave them as those little pillows that we first cut. However, those little ridges that you put into the gnocchi here, that's what's really going to be able to give it a little bit more interesting texture, but it's also going to grab onto a little bit heartier sauces as well and give them almost a little pocket to catch the sauce. And of course, if you don't have a gnocchi board, using something like a fork, something a little wider would be better, is perfectly acceptable as well. And in a matter of no time, you can really have a lot of these things done very, very quickly. It's really a great opportunity to bring in family members, even kids, and just sit around and have a little gnocchi party. Once you have all your dough completely rolled out and all your gnocchi made, flour, flour, flour is the key. You really want to dress these really well with enough flour to keep them from sticking together. Now when you're talking about storing gnocchi, one of the best places you can put them is in the freezer if you're not going to use them within the next day or two. I happen to just be using a little Pyrex dish because that's what will fit in my freezer. However, feel free to use whatever you can that has a lot of surface area. Just make sure to use a lot of flour. In order to cook these little bad boys, nice salted boiling water, and they just go straight in from there. If they're fresh, they only take about 20 to 30 seconds to cook. You'll see that they float right to the top. Now I happen to like to put them just straight into a saute pan with a little bit of oil or butter. And what's great about these is they're just light little fluffy pillows. And by throwing into a saute pan, you're gonna give them a nice little crisp edge, as you can see right there. Now tonight I just happened to be making some pot roast, so I decided instead of using something like potatoes or mashed potatoes, I was just going to use gnocchi. So I threw a little bit of the sauce from the pot roast right into the pan, let it reduce down, and those gnocchi are going to soak up that flavor, and just right over some of that pot roast that I just lightly shredded. Man, now that looks good. One other application I really like to do is just fresh gnocchi with a little Parmigiano Reggiano, butter, and fresh cracked pepper.
And there you have it. That is how you make perfect gnocchi every single time. I really hope I inspired you and I taught you a few things on how to make perfect gnocchi. If you have any tips or anything you'd like to add to the video, please make sure to add into the comments below. But also guys, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We will continue to make more videos each and every week as this quarantine continues to go on. And if there's anything that you'd like to see, once again, just mention in the comments below. See you guys next week.